a second. I'm gonna hold on. Here we go. All right, so I forgot to talk prices and costs with Eric. I got too into the technology, and I think it's important for folks to know what they're looking at here, man. I mean, it's not going to be $1,000. I'll tell you that right now. So, Eric, just with the ballpark on just let's say a 24 square foot home, 2,400, maybe 1,800 square foot home. Let's use ballpark, and we'll just use Maine. That's where you are. How much does it cost to heat a home, just generally speaking, relative to? We'll start with that. Let's start with that.
Yeah, sure. And again, the biggest two drivers are going to be simple design and readily available, local, inexpensive materials. And you can, for about $12,000 for the heater itself, right? We're not going to talk about foundations because they're unique to each house. The chimneys are the same story; it's different at each house. So our pricing would start around $12,000.
Yeah.
Some of the kits that we sell that are DIY kits, you're buying the kit for about $7,000, and then there's shipping, of course, on top of that. But then you would have to buy a few hundred brick and some brick mortar on top of that. But those kits include doors, dampers, gasket material, really soup to nuts, everything you need except for, of course, a brick around the outside. And then pricing can run up pretty much as high as you want it to. Balloons are included at a very high extra charge. But our average custom project is currently between like 17 and 25,000.
So wait. Right. So 25,000 turnkey?
Yep.
For an average house, I mean average cost to install, so that way when you're done, someone can put wood in there and start getting heat coming out right away. Wow. Yep. That seems pretty reasonable to me, because that's going to save them a hell of a lot of money on wood and other heat. I mean, just think about it. How much does it cost? I don't even know how much oil costs anymore. I don't know. I just know my own natural gas heat. It ain't cheap. That's for doggone sure. And I'm in Georgia. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So you invest $25,000. I'm not trying to make light. That's not cheap, but I'm just like, ooh.
No, it's an investment. It's for sure an investment. We respect it as one.
But how long does will yours last? I mean, as long as
so a well-built heater is going to be an heirloom product. You will likely need to do some firebox maintenance for most heaters within 35 or 40 years.
Oh, okay.
Right? And everything we design is designed so you can do that through the door, without heroic means.
And so there's no oil, no moving parts or anything. I mean, there's no mechanical, flywheel like you're talking about before. It's just
right. Yeah, the most complicated thing we ever do is if we have a butterfly damper inside, which is a plate of metal on a shaft that spins. That's the most complicated moving part that we have. So there's really nothing to break down. And the last time I looked seriously at that question of long-term operating costs, I compared, this was probably 10 years ago, I compared a masonry heater to a single zone radiant floor system and a boiler appropriate to the same output as the heater. And what I came up with was that if the masonry heater didn't outperform financially the radiant floor system, like in all the aesthetic and quality of life ways, it absolutely does. But it didn't outperform that radiant floor until you had to replace the boiler. And then the minute you had to replace the boiler, the masonry heater was like 2/3 of the cost, because you did it all up front, and then your overhead for the rest of your time in that house is next to nothing.
How about compared to just a good old fashioned wood stove? I mean, I think it's got to be. I mean, I don't even know what that would cost anymore.
Right. I mean, you couldn't, at the time I did that research, the wood stove was cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
Right. But that comes at the cost of stacking, splitting, carrying, cleaning, feeding, stoking, being chased out of the room, etc.
Especially as you get older. When you're older, it's not. I mean, I'm not trying to sweat you here, but I remember my mom's husband, and he's an old man, and it was hard to go out there and get the wood and haul it. I mean, we would do that, but you know,
Right.
it's not a pleasant chore. You know what I'm saying? Jeez.
Right. So the nice thing about the heaters is you are burning smaller pieces of wood and you're burning less of it. And you know, for example, for my heater, I can carry my wood in a 5-gallon bucket in one hand, and then I have one piece of wood in the other hand. I can't imagine my 77-year-old mother doing that. But I can imagine somebody who really appreciates the other things that this brings into their life, continuing to do this for a much longer time than dealing with a wood stove where the pieces are big and they're heavy and you got to crouch down in front of that door 4 or 5 times in a day.
How about smoke? I didn't even ask you about smoke. Is there any smoke that I mean, I can't imagine any smoke that comes off there.
Not generally. If you open the door during a fire, a little smoke will come out. If you're burning wet wood, that's something we did not talk about. If you're burning wet wood, you will have all sorts of problems you don't have with dry wood. Right. When I'm burning really dry wood, everything is beautiful. I never have to clean my door. I don't see smoke outside the house, et cetera, et cetera. When I'm burning wood that's wet, I almost have to open the door to poke around at it to keep it going well, because you're just boiling a lot of water before you can let that wood actually ignite and like that. I think the thing about the finances and economics of this is there is a quality of life thing with them that's you can't quantify readily. But even if we ignore that,
the aesthetics of it looks, I mean, it might not look good for everybody, but I mean, for me, I'm like, I think it looks beautiful. Right. I mean, it's like a huge home addition that I'm not going to say, I'm not going to be one of these guys say, oh, you're improving your house by 30%. I don't know. But I do know that it looks nice. You know what I'm saying? It has a nice aesthetic.
Right. And you can make one that's going to look good in any space. And there's a feedback there too, where the heater makes the space look nice, but they also sort of work together to define and create the space. So that's another thing. It's not just like a wood stove where you bring it in and you set it down and now you have a wood stove. It's like, this is part of your living room.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not just a thing in your living room. So there are a lot of quality of life things that come with it. And it really is the people who love their masonry heaters the most, or the people who have that mindset of buying into something in order to have low overhead and a lot of enjoyment for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. So, you know, basically people willing to invest, you know, $25,000, $30,000, they can get rock and rolling, you know, they can get going pretty, you know, again, you don't know how long it's going to take, I grant you, but that's a pretty good starting point, at least in terms of their mind. I think what the cost would be. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Good stuff, Eric. Appreciate it, man. That's, I just don't know why I forgot to ask that, but I think it's important, like I said, for people to say, well, give me a price. If it's $200,000, I'm not going to call Eric.
Right.
$25,000, I might. You know, that's
right.
That's a big deal.
Right. And we $200,000, we can do that for you if you want. We'll be there for a year, but you'll have a magnificent thing.
You'll go to Utah to do
right. Absolutely.
Right on, man. All right, hang tight.